Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on in their worlds. With us today, we have a double banger because Allan Laboucan is president and CEO of Advanced Gold, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under AAX, but he's also an established market analyst that's been asked for a long time, including a lot of appearances on BNN and several other networks, but BNN being the biggest one that I know of. So he's actually got some credibility with me, even though he loses out on stock and picking contests more than he'd like to admit. We're going to talk about Advanced Gold for sure, but the big topic, and I know a lot of people want to hear from us, is talking about Wall Street bets and what's going on with Gamestop, and more importantly, what's happening around it in terms of looks like, man, some real manipulated moves in order to get the people to stop from amassing together and getting great things done. So, Allan, let's talk about that first, man. First of all, how are you? Greetings from Mexico.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show today, George. I always enjoy having a chat with you. We get into some great stuff, and there sure is a lot to talk about these days with the GameStop situation, how that can play a role in the mining sector. I've got a good update for you on Advanced Gold. And then I'm doing my first ever online conference with rocksandstocksnews.com. And got some companies that are sponsoring and presenting, so we can talk about that as well.
All right, so let's get straight. I want to ask you about the Wall Street bet situation. Let's go in chronological order. First of all, so I'll ask you quick questions and then we'll discuss them because I want people to understand where your thoughts are, where my thoughts are. One, do you think that Wall Street bets, by having everybody amalgamate in one place and talk about GameStop and how they're all going to buy it in order to force a short squeeze, do you think that was illegal? Do you think that was market manipulation?
I haven't really been, on the Reddit site listening to the Wall Street Week, or Wall Street
bets
stocks, but no, I don't think, talking about what you're investing in, talking your book, every talking head on television does that. And, analysts do reports on the bullish side and the bearish side. And, they often front run their own book. And, if it's okay for them, why can't it be okay for the average Joe investor?
So the argument here is that Joe and Mary investor specifically targeted a short squeeze, and knowing fundamentals aside of GameStop, and that's not worth 50 or 60 or 80 or $100 a share, at least from a fundamental analysis, because it's everyone's right to decide what they think a stock is worth. Do you think the fact that they were going after the short squeeze, not a fundamental valuation of the stock, do you find any problems with that?
No, I mean, if you're going to short 100% of the stock, 140, whatever it may be, and you get caught, that's your problem, not the person that caught you.
Yeah, and I feel, just so everyone knows, obviously, as the founder of Gorecom, I'm 100% behind Wall Street bets. Wall Street bets isn't a pump and dump where they said, hey, let's take Advanced Gold to $5 a share just because and play a pyramid scheme. That would be wrong. That would be manipulation if they had no fundamental reason to believe ABC or AAX is worth $5 a share. But in my opinion, Allan, what they saw was a perfectly exploitable market imbalance, which was a greedy mofo hedge funds led by I forgot the name. I've talked about the last 2 days.
Citadel.
Citadel is the backer of anyways, it'll come to mind in a second. But they saw a perfectly exploitable short position by a hedge fund that was literally trying to drive a company to zero. Because if GameStop is worth $50 or $60 a share, fine, it's not worth zero. And that's where these guys try to take it, by gang up on it. So you know what? To hell with them. The Wall Street bets guys saw that they were in a position that they couldn't cover because they're way too heavy on their short. And the only way they're really going to cover that is if it went to zero and didn't have to buy the stock back. So in my opinion, great on Wall Street bets, great on everybody who's jumped in to drive that higher. And to hell with the hedge fund if they had to go borrow $2.5 billion from Citadel because they suffered 3.5. I think the numbers there, the hedge funds related on the short are up to $5 billion in losses. So what does that say about how do we dovetail that into the small cap markets? Because we do know that the small cap markets, and maybe we should even talk about silver and gold, but the small cap markets since 2012 when the downtick rule was removed have been victims of predatory short selling. What's your opinion on that, and how this impacts the small cap junior resources space?
Yeah, it brings up a few ideas to me, George. I think this Robinhood firm that did that sort of pricked the bubble, if you will. I don't think the market has really, the audience following it has really seen what, if you follow the money, they don't charge any commission for their trading. So how do they make money? They make money by selling their order flow and their data to the hedge
So to be clear
funds.
for everyone at home, when they route those orders to I guess the floor or some trading platform, they get a small tiny commission from that.
Yep, and that's certainly not going to cover their nut. The other thing they do is they sell their trade data to the hedge funds. But I think it's even more insidious than that, George, because that's only going to bring in so much, and they've got 1 million or something clients, and that takes money. I think they've also been either lending money to the hedge funds for the hedge funds to trade against their clients, or there's some chicanery where they're using their own money, the client's money, to trade with. And I saw the guy who runs Robinhood, and he had some
How bad was that
excuses.
interview? How bad was that interview?
Horrible. To me, it sounded like they have a liquidity problem, and the only way they could have a liquidity problem is if they were lending the money to their hedge funds friends or using the money to trade with. Either way, it's really bad. But I think they'll get to the bottom of that if they follow the money. The other question you asked was regarding how will this play into the mining sector, the junior mining sector, the gold space, the silver space? Well, they're kind of bullied as well. And I'm really quite optimistic about this idea of online gathering of investors that democratizes the investing world. And I think they're going to get wind of the opportunity that's in gold, silver, gold and silver stocks. And because these stocks are so illiquid, that, if they gang up on a few good stocks, you could see some tremendous moves. And I think it's only a matter of time before some of those audience groups on Reddit start figuring out how oversold the juniors are, how oversold gold is and silver is. I mean, look, George, the central bankers and the government are printing money and debt like it's going out of style. Gold is maybe $1,000 under what it should be, really.
And we know, by the way, this isn't just theory. We know that a number of trade desks over the last 3, 4, 5 years have been fined specifically for manipulation of the gold and silver markets. It's always those fines where they say where they didn't.
We're not guilty.
We're not guilty. We're not admitting to a crime, but we're paying the fine.
Yes.
Right. So we know that's been going on there. And as we're talking, silver right now is at $27, up 3.994%. Right. So it appears there's a possibility. We know it's early, but there's a possibility that silver may be the first beneficiary of this, because gold is up 0.5%. And a lot of people are talking about taking out the shorts on silver. And man, if that was to happen, silver would explode.
Well, I like that rings true to me because I live in the most prolific silver district in the world,
Yeah.
down here in the central Mexico. 10% of the silver that's ever been produced worldwide comes from about a 200-mile radius of where I live.
Yeah, in the history, all
And
silver in the
is
history of the
focused
world,
on
10%
gold
of
and
it's from you,
silver. Yes,
from your
from
district,
this
not from
region right
you,
here.
from your
Yep.
district.
I'm working on that, George.
By the way, just to go back, and then I want to stay here, but go back because I want to add something about Melvin Capital and Citadel. So I don't know if you know this. The short squeeze was on. Melvin was bleeding. They're down $3.5 billion. They went and borrowed 2.75 billion from Citadel. And I don't know if there's a syndicate, but Citadel was definitely the leader, if not the entire thing. When that happened, now I said to myself, why is Citadel doing this? We saw the great Volkswagen short squeeze that took the stock to $1,000. What, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? So why would they take this risk knowing that they could be offside 3 days from now? I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Because they were using, I think they were using
I'll tell
easy
you,
money.
I know the answer. What we now all discovered, fact, Citadel is the number one financer of Robinhood.
Exact.
So Citadel knew in advance. They said, all right, first, we'll shore up Melvin Capital, take 30% of that company for us. B, we control Robinhood, or at least, they got their thumb on the scale. So I'll make sure we're not exposed to $1,000 short squeeze that puts us into the frying pan by calling up our good friend Vlad at Robinhood and telling him to shut it down, even for a day, just to kill the momentum.
Yeah, but George, they still have to get the cash. Okay, so where did the cash come from? I think, remember that brokerage house that blew up about, I don't know, 10 years ago?
Long-term capital management.
No, the one that they were using the funds of the client to trade proprietary trade.
Oh, yeah. Some that was a commodity, but it was more of a commodities fund.
Yeah, well, I think we're seeing this smells to me like that, because the Robinhood clients aren't trading on margin. So they say there wasn't a liquidity problem. Where's the cash? I think the cash was loaned to the hedge funds.
I see. I don't buy that. You think Robinhood's not big enough to be loaning cash to hedge funds?
Sure, they are. If they use
Unless
their
they were maybe handling more shorts for them.
they can. They have the
That's
client's
possible.
cash. They have the client's cash. Those are cash accounts, George.
Right.
They have a lot of cash in their system. I think they need to follow the money. And when they do, I think you're going to see some nasty stuff being done in the background.
Well,
Not
governments have called
not
on
just what
investigations
people
right now.
not just what people believe about, the phone call to say, hey, stop your people from trading.
That in itself is criminal to me.
Exactly, but I think there's more to the story than that. It stinks to me like that same firm that was using the client's cash to trade the commodities, and then they blew up.
Interesting, buddy. Something is fishy. Bottom line is there's something fishy going on, and they weren't expecting people to collaborate and turn against Wall Street on something like this. So
Yeah, but the bigger thing to me is how this applies to the mining sector.
Yeah.
And if they think that, a huge short position on Nokia and GameStop and things like that are ripe, we're even more ripe in this sector. Gold is more ripe, silver is more ripe. And I like the democratization of investors, and I think you're going to see, I don't think it's very far away, George, where I like that they were able to find inefficiencies in the market. Well, if
Yeah.
there's any inefficiency in the market and that could benefit from democratization of investors, retail investors, it's the mining space and the commodity space, gold and silver in particular.
Yep. Yep. And look, like I said, silver's at 27, up 4%, right?
Yep.
2706. So it's
And it's dirt
up four,
cheap,
up
George. I mean,
4.4%. So it
it's
starts.
dirt cheap. You know,
Where do
the
you think silver
golden,
should be priced at? So if there's anyone who knows where silver should be priced at based on supply and demand economics, just that alone, where do you think silver ballpark would be fairly priced? What's a number you'd say? Look, I know you would want $1,000 silver because you're the CEO, but
no, that's not
what would be the
realistic.
fair number? You'd say that's a fair number. That's where silver should be at right now.
Well, based on supply and demand trends and, you know, the push towards cleaner energy and how crucial silver is in that environment, you know, $50 an ounce doesn't sound out of line to me. You know, even though silver is trading at $27 and the silver producers are making money hand over fist, the reality is on the supply side, production is going down. And that's contrary to economics 101. If the price goes up, production should go up. It's going down. And the reason it's going down is
There was
there's
enough
been a
investment
long,
5 years ago to have production today.
over almost my entire 30-year career, George, has been an underinvestment in exploration and new mine development to replace what the miners are mining. And that's why we're seeing, you know, a healthy silver price, but production is on the decline. Same thing in gold.
So you think silver might be making a move here? You think you think that are you seeing anything or hearing anything? I mean, look, up 4.5% now, 27.10. Do you think this is the beginning of something, or is it too early to speculate on if this is the beginning of a move for silver?
I try to look for the trends that, you know, when they're going in our favor. And I think I've been expecting an explosive move on gold and silver for quite some time based on the economic.
Yeah, you're overdue, right?
Yeah, like
You've been on that
look,
for years, and you never. But
George,
that's not because you're wrong. And I'd love to say you were wrong and beat you up about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's just been manipulated. We know that because we have trading desks from London to New York that have been fined over it. Some trading desks even shut down the trading desk over it, where they were fined and told, okay, you got to shut down. You may not be pleading guilty. You may not be admitting to guilt. That was the term I wanted to use earlier, but you got to shut it down. We're not going to allow you to keep based on what you guys did.
yeah, and you know, and the other big thing that I don't think is really priced into the market is the sloppy and horrible financial situation with, you know, right now the U.S. is trading at 140% debt to GDP. GDP, not growth, George. GDP. They have $28 trillion in debt in a $20 trillion GDP.
But devil's advocate, Allan, devil's advocate. You're 100% right. And if you and I were had debt equivalent to 140% of our, net
Revenue.
worth or whatever the case is,
Revenue,
of our,
not profit, revenue.
yeah, of our, I don't, we know that that's not healthy. But the fact of the matter is, for whatever reason, and you've got to think it's because at the end of the day, the global markets, I don't want to say are in collusion, not in collusion, but at the end of the day, the global markets have said, well, we're just not going to tank America, because if they tank, we all tank. So we're just going to live with this new normal. So is that the reason for gold to rocket, or has the world just decided 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 28 trillion? If you take unfunded liabilities in the US, which means what are unfunded liabilities? You know that you're going to have debts going forward, like a father. I may have a mortgage on my house, but I also know I have 3 children who are going to need to go to school, eat, blah, blah, blah. So those are liabilities that I know are coming, right? And I have to account for those. If you take unfunded liabilities into account in the US, it's 90 trillion, maybe $100 trillion now. They're never going to meet those, right? Does the financial system blow up? Does gold go to $10,000, or does the world just say, we'll just
You
live with
can't.
this as long as we can, because I think gold has been losing using that message. And that's why Bitcoin is moving the way it's moving. That
Yeah,
negative.
but George, the last time I saw this happen was in the late 1990s.
Okay.
And then we had a 10-year bull market. And I was wrong for, several years. But
What happened
then
19 in the 90s for that 10 years? Just for everyone at home, what happened when it
debt
finally did catch up?
growth, lack of economic, the putting the debt on, devaluing currencies. And then you had the supply and demand situation with gold and silver. And then we went on a 10-year bull market. This is even better than that, for a perfect storm for gold and silver to go higher. And I also think
And was that a
that,
bull market just for the underlying metal, or was it for the small cap companies as well?
oh yeah, George. I mean, there was lots of money made back then in the from 2001 to 2011. Remember, that's when I was a star on TV, where I was, from 2006 to 2012, I was a regular guest on BNN, and they
Sure.
wanted to talk about it a lot. And I
Silver
think we're coming,
27.25, up 5.1%, or just over 5% now, climbing as
yeah,
we're talking, buddy.
George, the democratization of online investors, they found inefficiencies. One inefficiency is in the gold metals market. Another inefficiency is things like that short situation. So I'm glad they're finding these inefficiencies, and I think it's only a matter of time before they find the inefficiencies in gold and silver, and the tremendous inefficiencies in the stocks relating to those commodities.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the junior world right now. Let's talk a little bit about advanced. It's funny it's called advanced gold, because silver is your main thing. But let me give an overview for everyone at home, because if I don't give an overview, you'll talk for an hour. I'd rather you talk about the details. So advanced gold controls 100% of the Tabasquena silver mine, which is in Zacatecas, where Allan's actually talking to us from right now. That's located, you heard Allan say this earlier, in the heart of the world's most prolific silver belt. And that's not just talk. Okay. So 25% of the silver ever produced in Mexico has come from there. And 10% of all the silver ever produced in the world has come from there. So Allan's an elephant country. And they recently had, I'm going to read the press release, advanced gold to drill below a high-grade gold vein with 1.7 meters of 9.5 grams per ton of gold at Tabasquena. So what have you guys got there in terms of gold? First of all, tell me what you guys have got, and then tell me what you guys are doing with the drilling that you announced.
Okay, so all the mines here are on epithermal vein systems. And what we found to date is in the near surface drilling, a series of epithermal veins.
But by the way, what's an epithermal vein? Is that important for people at home to understand?
Yeah, it's the system that brings the gold and silver to the surface.
All right, so you
veins.
literally got these
exactly
coming right up from underground,
and they come off of a heat source that's deeper.
Right.
And in those veins, you tend to have what's called zonation of grade. So you have to be in the right place relative to the hot heat source. I think of it like a boiling pot of water, George. And when you're in the near surface or the upper part of the system, you're in sort of the bubbles of a boiling pot of water. What you really need to get into is the hot water that's below that. And sort of in the bubbles, the near surface stuff, we found a network of probably 30 veins with widespread gold and silver.
You think they're all coming from the same heat source?
Yes. So now what we're doing is we're drilling deeper to get closer to the boiling water, if you will. And
are you finding more gold or silver in those veins?
Actually, we're finding both. We're finding widespread gold and silver mineralization. Wow. We have some high-grade gold, and we've also found some high-grade silver. That's what in one of the veins, Penoles, which is one of the big silver miners here in Mexico, they mined the first 70 meters of our property in the oxides, and it had a grade in the 350 grams per ton kind of number, which is fabulously profitable down here. But then the prices of silver tanked, and they moved on to one of their other mines, and then we were able to get it and drill below the oxide cap, and we found this cluster, and now we're going deeper underneath the gold hit, and then we'll cut across the entire network of veins to get deeper into that system. And
How deep is that? Like, you talk about 20,000 leagues under the sea, or?
oh, and yeah, these systems can go on for 2,000 meters, George.
Where does it start at, though? Does it start at like 500 meters, then can go way deeper, or?
They start at surface, some of them.
Wow.
But if you take the Mag Silver example, Mag Silver is now bringing their Juanicipio mine into production, and their hot zone, if you will, was about 700 meters below surface, and we haven't even got to that yet. But there's another interesting aspect to our project, is that we've also found a sulfide zone to the north of that cluster of veins.
But what's a sulfide zone mean? So for people at home, why is that important then?
Sulfur is what comes off of volcanic events, and they tend to create very big deposits. And there's one that's about 10 miles. Teck has one about 10 miles to the east of us. And so we know there's big sulfide systems around us as well. And we've tagged some high-grade zinc in the past on it. Zinc and silver tend to come together. So we're trying to find that as well. And we've got a couple holes in the lab, or one hole in the lab right now that I hope to have some assays reported on next week sometime. So we've got two kind of interesting systems. One is this network of veins, which we're drilling right now. And the other is this sulfide hit to the north of us that looks quite promising as well.
Devil's advocate, though, do you have to, because you're a smaller company, you're naturally means you're constrained by resources, both human and financial. Where are you guys going to focus on for now?
Well, I think probably the vein system, because, you know, we've had our most success tagging veins. We've tagged a whole network of epithermal veins in an area where that's what makes up all the mines. And, you know, and they're high grade, low cost, and you can make their high margin projects like Mag Silver. When they get into production, they're only about 100 miles, about 70 miles from us. They'll be the lowest cost, the second lowest cost producer of silver in the world. The first one is Fresnillo PLC, and Fresnillo is their partner and has a bunch of epithermal vein mines right beside them. So we're in a fabulous.
You're right there. How far are they from you?
About 70 miles as a crow flies.
Interesting. So you're drilling now. When do you, it says on your January 11th to drill. When you're drilling, and when do you think results start coming back, ballparkish, you know, just for everyone at home, ETA wise?
We are drilling.
Okay.
And I think when we put out the assay results from the northern target, I hope sometime next week, I should have an update for them, for the market, on what we're finding. It won't be the assay results from them, but we're finding some interesting stuff that I'd like to talk about in a news release.
How much drilling do you think you'll have to do until you get to, you know, a comfortable amount of data to determine what you've got? And how much is that going to cost you?
Well, that's a hard thing to answer, George. You know, we could hit one hole and, you know, it blows the top off of everything. And, you know, that's kind of what we designed this hole for, that we're doing right now, to get deeper into the epithermal vein system and see if we can get some higher grades.
All right. So to be determined, going to wait to have you back. And sorry, when do you think you'll start getting results back?
I'm hoping next week to have a news release. So the other thing that I think gets lost on people, George, is one of the reasons that I moved down here is I wanted to be close to where there's lots of action. And
Mark, yeah, man. If you're not there, if you don't have your ear on the ground and you're sitting in Vancouver, forget about it. You're lost.
yeah, and because we've been down here for a few years now, we kind of get approached with a lot of deals. The deal flow is quite spectacular. And I'm always looking at projects and talking about potential deals. And I think that that's something that nobody really gives us any value for. But it's part of the reason why I'm right here in Zacatecas, Mexico. And it's been the last year. I've been looking at a lot of projects, George, and some of those are advanced. And so keep your ears open. I might have something to talk about soon on
Well,
that front.
Alan, we joke around a lot, right? Tongue in cheek. I like to rib you a lot, obviously, because that's part of what people like when they watch these. But the matter of the fact is there isn't anyone who's been more grounded in just homework, sleuthing, inspecting, finding, pardon the pun, overturning every rock, looking under every rock, right?
And I've been doing that for a long time down here, George.
And you've got something nice going with
Something
Advance. Still hasn't.
something that I've always prided myself on as an analyst in the sector is that I've picked some big winners, and I've done that sometimes off of one or two drill holes first early in their development. And I have a
You
good
have.
nose for this sort of stuff. And now I'm doing it for the company where I'm a big shareholder and get to make the decisions. So yeah, I look at a lot of stuff and turn over a lot of rocks, and some of those rocks are looking pretty interesting these
Yeah,
days.
nothing make me happy to see you guys hit out of the park, man. Plus, I'm a shareholder. I got to make sure everyone home knows that. Advance is not a client of Agoracom. I don't know why, but I am a share. We are Agora as a shareholder, so I want to make sure people know that, so that
Well, I appreciate that, George, and you know I'm working hard for everybody.
Let's move on to quickly, because I know you got 3 companies to talk about. You're doing your first online conference. When is it? Where do people find it, first of all?
Yeah, they can go to rocksandstocksnews.com. And
rocksandstocksnews.com.
yeah, there's an event page on there, and they can just sign up their email. There's no charge for it. And it kind of gets back to what we were talking about earlier, George, the shift towards online. Remember when, you and I first met? It was at
I
mining.
believe the shift towards online.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah,
that's
exactly.
15 years, and look where we are, right? And it's only going to
Exactly.
get, man, it's going to go way deeper. It's going to hit
I think
another gear in the next couple of years.
we were well ahead of our time, George, and now the market is coming to us. And like, I don't do those live shows anymore because, for one, you can talk to a lot more people in this camera here, and then email it out to everybody. And when you go to a mining conference, you're trying to talk to as many people as you can, and you might talk to 20 people in a mining conference. It costs you several thousands of dollars. These online events are much cheaper to produce, and the reach is much more significant. So the market is really coming to us, the online guys that have been putting together content for a long time now. And you have a forum with Agoracom where those investors can get together and talk about companies. And that's why I put this online conference together, to bring companies to the investing community. And I'm a pretty good question asker, and I've got a good group of companies. Got 3 sponsors and 3 presenters.
We got to talk about the 3 sponsors.
Yeah, well, I'd like to give a little blurb about the presenters
Yeah. Let's
as well.
give us a minute blurb on each, so we have a good understanding of what each is up to.
Okay, on the sponsor front, one of my sponsors is Amex Exploration.
Our good friend.
I started covering them when they were announcing their first drill holes. They were 50 cents a share, and now they're $3.25 a share. And they have found the best high grade continuity of any of the companies that I cover. And yet they still have a reasonable valuation.
Where do you
I
think they
think,
should be? Where do you think now? See, you're not allowed to talk about advanced gold and price projections as your company, but
yes,
you can talk about Amex exploration. Where do you think that stock goes in the next 12 months?
I think they found a new high-grade gold mine in Quebec that has road access, cell phone access. I think it's ultimately going to be a high margin, high grade gold mine. And I think somebody else is going to develop it and that they're going to buy this company out for more than $1 billion.
And
Right now, they
what would that put them at for share price? Because I don't know how many shares that's.
about 400% from where it's trading right now. They have
So
about a two.
you think that that's a $14 stock right now? You think it's somewhere 12? Let's call it 12 to $15.
Yes, I do, if not
Wow.
more. They just had news out that not only do they have these zones of veins with high grade in a known area, they have regional exploration. They tested one of their regional exploration targets, and bam, they hit some more high grade. I think this is a multi-million ounce high grade, high margin gold mine in the making, and those sell for more than $1 billion. I followed, remember Gold Eagle? I
Of course.
followed them from the time they were into their first drill holes, and they were ultimately bought out for 1.2. And I think this is a better situation. So yeah, I think $1 billion is in the cards, if not significantly more.
You think within a year, or will that? How long would that take?
Well, it's always hard to say, George, but I think a year from now they're going to be well north of a $500 million valuation. They've got 10 drill holes running, 10 drills running right now. They've got $30 million or something in the bank. They're funded for all of their drilling for the rest of this year. The news flow is going to be exceptional. And I think with higher gold prices, that this is the kind of thing investors should be owning.
And that's our good friend Victor Cantori over there. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
good
sir.
guy, man. I love
Let's
that
talk
Victor guy.
about, yeah,
Who's
and
next?
I've become real good friends with Kelly Malcolm, their VP Exploration, and Kelly is the one who's going to be on my conference. Oh, I forgot to tell when. That'll be February the 15th. It'll go live. But Kelly is one of these young geologists. That's another thing I've always prided myself on, George, is seeing geological talent before the crowd does. And Kelly is a young guy and he's super smart. He's found something exceptional. I think he's got a great career ahead of him, and I'll be continuing to watch that closely.
All right.
Another one is Ridgeline Minerals. Now you've
By the
known
way,
me to
what's the
talk
stock symbol on Amex? On Amex.
AMX.
That's okay. I want to make sure.
Yeah. The
Okay,
next one
AMX.
is
Right now.
Ridgeline Minerals. RDG is their symbol.
I've
They're
never even heard
sponsored.
of Bridgeline. Never heard of
Well,
them
in a
before.
way, you have, George. I've talked a lot about Premier Gold over the years,
Right? Is this a spin out?
and no, the guy who was their exploration guy in Nevada, their geologist that worked for them for 10 years and found a lot of gold, he started his own company called Ridgeline Minerals. And two of my mentors in the business, one is Ewan Downey that runs Premier
Yeah,
Gold,
you've always been fond of him in a big way. He's a really smart guy.
excellent explorationist. And another great explorationist is Andre Gumon that
Sure.
ran Virginia Gold. And both of those guys have invested in Ridgeline Minerals. And what they have a unique sort of business plan,
And their stock symbol, Allan.
RDG, Robert David George.
Okay.
And what their business plan is he and a driller friend of his started this company. They're the co-founders. And so they're trying to keep their drilling costs down, and they're doing their work on really good quality projects that Chad Peters, the CEO, has been amassing. And recently they started drilling on one of them, and they found something that looks quite interesting on the early days of drilling on two of their projects in Nevada. And so I like their business plan. I like their quality of their projects. I like their valuation. And I like that they're well funded by some smart people. and they're going to be drilling up a storm this year. And I think this is a real breakout year for them. And they have
And
I
they
think
just
a
started
20,
listing, right? It looks like, because as you're
yeah,
talking, I was punching it up. Looks like they started trading on August 17th. So they're pretty
yeah,
new,
they're a brand new company and a
trading near
cheap
their
value.
lows, but that's a good thing for people hearing this for the first time.
Exact. And I think you're going to see a lot of good news out of them this year. And I'm really proud to have them as a sponsor. And I really like Chad Peters because he got his education in exploration from one of the most talented explorationists I know, which is Ewan Downey.
All right. Who's the third company?
Third company is Sokoman Minerals. Sokoman is
Ah,
symbol
good old
is
Soakman. What's their stock symbol again?
SIC. And
I
they're
remember I
another
bought a couple
one.
100,000 shares of that at 15 cents last year, so I'm doing okay. It's at 23 right now, but
And I
they have
think you're
a
going
real
to
great fan for it. Let me go back to chart a year ago or a little longer than that.
I think I
Oh,
started
no, actually,
covering them.
they broke out from, let me see, where was that tweet? One, there it is. There, man, it's been a while. So back in August 2018,
Yes,
they skyrocketed to a high of 42 cents.
right. From about what, a nickel or something like that?
Yeah, from 3.5 cents
There
in
you
May,
go.
just before that. So
Yeah, what
and I
caused
bought it at
that
15 cents based on what you told me to buy.
what caused that action was they made a new discovery of high grade gold in Newfoundland on a project that's right beside the road. Again, road access, keep your costs down, cell phone coverage. That's one of my themes of the group of companies that I've brought to my conference, and have a good tight share structure. Eric Sprott put money into the company back then. And since then, they've been going along. They find some hits, they get some real good high grade, but they haven't really found haven't really figured out the system yet. And I think they're on the verge of doing that, George. And with the high grade gold that they have, when they figure out the system, it's going to be explosive, because it won't take very long with that kind of grade for them to start adding lots of ounces of gold. And I love high grade. I love projects that have road access where you can drill a lot, keep your costs down, don't blow up your share structure. That's exactly what Sokoman is doing. And I think this is going to be their best year ever. I think they're going to
Wow. Okay,
figure
so
out
you think they're going to pass their all-time high of 42 cents?
and make significant new highs. They're really figuring out
Actually,
the
sorry,
system.
correction, everyone at home. Their high of 42 cents back in August of 2018 was the highest it's been since back in 2013. But back then they were trading as high as $1.80. So I would say you think it's going to surpass their 5-6 year high of
Yeah,
42
George,
cents and blow
because
past that.
high grade, low cost, infrastructure rich projects are not easy to find. They're what I focus on, because I think all investors should focus on those things, because it helps them not to have a blown out share structure. And one of the most destructive things for juniors is having a blown out share structure. And so these companies and the other three,
Stockman's got 140 million shares, plus they probably got some warrants. So let's say 150, 160. Is that still under, like, what do you consider blowing out share structure if it gets over what, a quarter of a
well,
250 million
over a
shares?
quarter billion, and then trading at a couple pennies where they can never finance. These guys with the high grade gold, they'll have no problem financing it. And they're looking for something that, could put them into $500 million to $1 billion valuation kind of thing, much like I think they're kind of like an early Amex. And in
Wow.
that kind of a scenario, you're looking at a few dollars to
Because right
three to
now their
five
market cap
dollars.
is $35 million. You think it could be 30 times higher than it is today?
Well, I think 10 times could be in the books if they figure out this system and start tagging high grade gold like I think they can. And so that's why I like Sokoman and why I invited him to my show.
Buddy, amazing having you on. As always, like, really great information, talking about GameStop, talking about Wall Street bets, the democratization of retail investors, advanced gold, talk about the company. gold and silver, and then lastly, the last three companies you talked about, man. We got to do this more often, but great info, and good luck with the conference, man. I wish you a ton of success with that.
Well, thank you very much, George, and I'm always available. You just have to send me an email, and you know me, you put a microphone and a camera in front of me, and I'm ready to talk. And it's because I love this business so much. I mean, I don't really think that it's not really like I have a job, George, and I work all the time, but I don't really look at it as work. I'm very fortunate to do
Nice.
what I love. I follow the sector. I follow the industry, I follow the investment market, and I get to poke holes in the ground looking for buried treasures with my own company. So I'm a pretty happy guy living down here in Mexico, and the food is great, and the
And you've
people
lost like
are.
100 pounds when you're there. So I got it, all kidding aside. A, congratulations. B, that just tells me that, you're happy at Advance. Things are going well. I mean, you're treasure hunting. You're not under stress, and the company's not failing. Where the first thing we do is pile food into our mouths. So that's a good sign, man. I mean, I love the changes you made in your life to move to Mexico, to have your ear to the ground. It's your own deal. You no longer exclusively talk about other people's deals, and I'm looking forward to what Advance is going to be able to pull off here in the next 12, 24 months, man.
Yeah, my company is in a unique position. My research is in a unique position. And George, I think we were ahead of the crowd by many years, but the market is now starting to gravitate towards this online forums, online commentary, and I'm really excited about the industry and what I'm doing, and with my research and what I'm doing with Advanced Gold.
Buddy, can't wait to have you back, and can't wait to have you back maybe in a couple of weeks when Advance puts out its next set of drilling results. Let's hopefully celebrate some really good news and really good progress, man. Have a great day and have a great weekend.
Same to you, George. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the viewers. Everybody have a great day. And don't forget the disclaimer, George. It's important for investors to do their own homework, speak to
Sure.
their financial advisors, and do their own homework. This is the kind of
Yeah,
stuff
full
that you can.
disclosure, the companies that Allan mentioned, I'd bought a couple of thousand shares of supplement. I might still have them. I don't even know. But if I'm going to presume for this, I do, and therefore, don't list anything we had to say about. I didn't talk about future valuations of Ackerman, but still, just so you know, for the other companies that didn't have any exposure to them personally. But
Yeah, and
everyone at home,
I'm
you
a
gotta don't go
I'm
mortgage
a
your house and anything. Do your due diligence, talk to an advisor, and talk to your partner. All right.
I'm a big shareholder of Advance. I don't own any of the shares in the companies that I sponsored, but you can rest assured that I am biased in my opinion and that I want to be right. And
Of course.
I've been that way for a long time, and I don't let my bias. I let the truth machine set me free, George.
Which
And
is the
so,
drill, which is the drill
yep,
is the truth machine. Everything else is just a bunch of hot air. All right,
you
my
got
man.
it.
Thanks as always, brother.
Have a great day, George. Thank you.
And to everyone watching at home, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, it's a valuable use of your time. I'm sure it was. See you next time.